The last few years have been dominated by deadlines set up, artificial deadlines set up by Brexit, by Europe, by Britain, and now we've got another artificial deadline set up to repeal and replace the plethora of EU laws as identified and picked by Jacob Rees-Mogg, to do all this by Christmas. And should that not happen, we're now told Nuskani has said that the laws would simply expire. They would become the laws inherited from the EU would otherwise become an aging relic dragging down the UK. So they will simply expire at Christmas. This is absurd, absolutely absurd. And the Labour Party had urged the government to extend the deadline to 2026 to make sure there is proper, coherent and considered time to debate these laws in full and to look at the implications. Instead, it's going to be a rushed job. And many Conservatives, as well as the majority of people in the opposition, oppose this deadline and oppose the speed of this completely pointless bit of legislation. The only reason for this legislation that I can see is that it's an attempt to ensure that there cannot be a de-Brexiting of Brexit. It's an attempt to ensure that there can be no way to turn the page back without going through the same misery again, and nobody wants to do that. I don't think Brexit will be repealed. I don't think we will find ourselves joining the EU again. I cannot imagine the EU would want us. I can imagine a situation where, of necessity, we have a closer relationship with Europe. We had a closer relationship with Europe even before we entered the EU. It was called the First and the Second World War. And we should, I believe, have stayed within the EU to encourage the EU, which is riddled with chaos, as we've seen only recently with the arrests for corruption and for taking money from other countries. And I thought we had a duty to stay in the EU and try and reform it. I certainly agree with many people that the EU is an institution that is struggling. Now, we've got two institutions that are struggling, the EU and Britain. So congratulations congratulations to Boris Johnson for getting Brexit done. I think he's done us all. But David Davis, he is there urging things forward, but at the same time he says, we can't just sign a blank check. We need to know what we're doing. I don't think there is time for people to know what they're doing with 4,000 laws to scrutinise in less than 1 year, particularly given the fact that parliamentarians draw a quite sizable wage for only sitting for, 9 months of the year or so, maybe slightly less than that. So, maybe we need to revise parliamentary timekeeping if we're going to expect to get this level of simply bureaucratic management out of the way, when there are so many other things, so many other pressing demands that should be made on parliamentarians' time and on the government's time. At the top of that list is sorting out the NHS, sorting out the chaos in education, sorting out clearly the chaos in policing because the police can't do it themselves, and actually sorting out our country and providing, I think, at least one benefit that we are getting from Brexit, because I don't see any still.